This is the story of how some top U.S. research universities are making the world a more dangerous place. In this series of reports, you will see how unrestrained, unquestioned academic freedom and the pursuit of research accolades and cash have contributed to the weaponization of space, the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, and the loss of America's edge in the globalized economy. There is ample evidence of a stampede in American academia to share with Communist China research findings paid for with billions of dollars in federal grants supported by our tax dollars. The primary motivation isn't sympathy for communist ideology. The motivation is greed. Greed for Chinese tuition dollars, and greed based on research which can turn handsome profits. Academia is perhaps the most sacred of this country's sacred cows. They are the fountains of wisdom and knowledge, making the world a better place and educating our kids so they can be all they can be. At least that's the PR image our universities want you to believe.
Our government, as a matter of policy, leaves it largely up to the research universities to police themselves on keeping our technology and military competitive edge confidential. The research universities hate restrictions of any kind. They want to tell the world what they've discovered, even if, in some cases, it harms their country and the people who paid for the research.
Some are sure to say these reports are racist China bashing. But let's be clear. These reports are critical of the Chinese communist dictatorship, not the Chinese people or Chinese Americans. This is the face of a Chinese Falun Gong believer, tortured by a ruthless regime notorious for human rights abuses. Our pro-China universities and big businesses look the other way when confronted with evidence like this. Greed trumps morals when it comes to China. The University of Michigan is the poster child of these reports, but other major research universities are engaged in the same questionable practices. Michigan is in the midst of a year-long celebration of its growing academic relationship with China. Tens of thousands of blue-collar and white-collar jobs have been lost in Michigan in recent years, and many of them have gone to China. At a time when the Great Lakes state is struggling to survive economically, its premier university is working hard to help China instead. Professor Charles W. Bill Kaufman is a pro-America whistleblower and thorn in the side of the university administration. He doesn't criticize the university lightly. He's an alumnus. He is alarmed by what he sees as a massive infiltration of the university's College of Engineering by Chinese students intent on learning the technology which puts the super in U.S. military superiority. Is Kaufman a Cold War-era paranoid kook? Is he imagining Chinese spies at the University of Michigan? I ask this man. He's retired FBI Special Agent Greg Stachel, who was assigned to Ann Arbor, the university's hometown, for years. Counterintelligence was one of his assignments.
Anytime you have a large Chinese student community, anytime I think you have a large Chinese community, you're going to have a presence of Chinese intelligence officers there. In the case of the University of Michigan, a large number of these students are Chinese nationals that are here acquiring an education, but also acquiring technological information. And consequently, you are going to have Chinese intelligence officers here monitoring those students and their activities.
In your time in the Ann Arbor resident agency of the Bureau, were you aware that there were Chinese agents on campus?
Yes.
Professor Kaufman can cite specifics. Listen carefully to what he says.
Recently, we had a delegation from Harbin Institute of Technology, and this university is closely associated with an ICBM factory, sea-launched ballistic missiles. And it's clear that they were looking for technology concerning the casing, the fiberglass casing for these rockets, because the lighter the weight of the casing, the heavier the weight can be of the warhead. And they were over here searching specifically for technology to increase the range and lower the error of their sea-launched ballistic missiles. Now, the people that invited this delegation had to know about Harbin. They had to know about the specific people coming. I mean, it wasn't like we had some innocent folks wandering over here. They were trying to pick the low-hanging fruit.
As this photo shows, Kaufman was there. He's on the right. He heard what the Chinese delegation was asking about. The Harbin Institute of Technology in northern China is not just any university. Rick Fisher is a defense and national security analyst with the International Assessment and Strategy Center. Harbin is vital, he says, for the PLA, the People's Liberation Army.
It is part of the militarization of China. It is a university that is well known for basically conducting subcontract research for military programs. If there was a PLA MIT, it would probably be the Harbin Military Technical College.
John Lee is a Falun Gong practitioner and activist. It's a spiritual belief system banned by the Communist Chinese. In China, practicing Falun Gong can get you arrested, tortured, even murdered in prison. Lee also is a researcher at a major California university. Here's what he has to say about the Harbin Institute of Technology.
High school students are informed by their teacher which school is for what when they start applying for the universities. For example, they like Harbin Institute of Technology. Most students know that if you like to go to the defense military, you go to that university, you learn the weapons.
Ken Schiffer, an instructor with the Center for Counterintelligence and the former Director of Internal Security at Los Alamos National Laboratory, our top nuclear weapons lab, describes how Chinese academic delegations, like the one from Harbin that visited the University of Michigan, collect intelligence.
That delegation either wants to identify who at the University of Michigan or Los Alamos or Livermore or Sandia or DuPont, whatever. What individual has access to the technology that Harbin wants to gather? And once that individual is identified, then an operation is built around that individual to A, make an introduction, B, build a relationship, and C, invite that individual to China for a non-sensitive, non-classified lecture in front of other scientists. As the relationship develops, it becomes one in which this individual is gradually going to be pressured to provide the information that ultimately the United States would want to protect.
The Chinese scientists who came to the University of Michigan looking for insights on fiberglass casings for sea-launched ballistic missiles were hosted by the man behind this group of students. He's Wei Shi, chairman of aerospace engineering at the University of Michigan. At the last minute, he canceled a scheduled on-camera interview, claiming he was too busy. He suggested I submit questions by email, but he never responded to the questions I emailed to him. Wei Shi is in an interesting position. He's in charge of aerospace engineering at the University of Michigan. He knows about every U.S. government research project his professors are working on. He is also a guest professor at 4 Chinese universities with programs in aerospace engineering. Since he won't answer questions, we can only hope he keeps our advanced research confidential when he's talking with Chinese academics like the ones from Harbin. Here is something else to consider. Since the chair of aerospace engineering at the University of Michigan, that's Wei Shi, is foreign-born and holds professor positions in the United States and Communist China, since he reviews all University of Michigan military aviation and space-related research projects funded by our government and has access to other federal research initiatives in the College of Engineering, since he has hosted at least one scientific delegation from a Chinese university known to be active in military missile programs, since the Department of Defense considers China a potential adversary in war, why does the Department of Defense continue to award advanced research projects to the University of Michigan? No one, it seems, is asking. I'm Vince Wade. This is our country.